Happy Friday, guys. I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and what better way to start the weekend than a dogfight battle? I bet you think the same. I thought so. That's what I thought too. So we've got two high-end devices in the office right now that are different in a lot of ways, not just in color, but in operating system and more. One is the HTC One. It launched today on AT&T and Sprint, coming soon to T-Mobile and available online right now at T-Mobile.com. Then you have the Nokia Lumia 920, an exclusive to AT&T and available in 5 different colors, including my personal favorite, this big, bright, vibrant red. It's a dogfight battle between Android and Windows Phone. Which one's going to come out on top? Is it going to be the One or the Lumia 920? Let's find out together in a dogfight, which starts right now. It's HTC One D-Day in the US, at least if you're on AT&T or Sprint. It's April 19th. This phone is now available at AT&T and Sprint for $199 right now, just in silver. Should be available in black in the coming weeks. You can also pick this up at T-Mobile online in stores in the next couple of days. I believe the 24th is the launch date of the in-store version of the HTC One, but it's going to be available for $99 down at T-Mobile with 24 monthly payments of $20 per month. So a high-end flagship device. We've covered this extensively on PhoneDog.com. The HTC One is a phenomenal piece of hardware. You know the specs if you watch the videos. You know how awesome it is with the metal and the glass. But you know what? It's dogfight time between this and what's arguably still the Windows Phone 8 heavyweight, despite the fact that really no Windows Phone 8 devices have come out in some time. It's the Nokia Lumia 920. If you're looking at specifications over here, just to give you a quick refresher, 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU over here. You've got a 4.5-inch HD display, 768 by 1280 pixels, so not 1080p over here, but pretty decent nonetheless, and at 4.5 inches, a nice little medium for a lot of people. You know, you may find 5 inches too big, or 4.7 inches too big, or 5.5 like what you see on the Note 2, but this may be a decent size for you because you can still kind of fit it in your hand. That said, it's definitely a meaty device, even in comparison to the original Nokia Lumia 900. What I do love about this phone, though, is it comes in 5 different colors, even though it's exclusively available on AT&T. So if you're on Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, you're out of luck. But if you're on AT&T, it's a great option, and it's available in yellow, red, blue, white, and black, with most of those being glossy paint, or glossy prints, I should say, or glossy cases, as you can see by all my fingerprints on this device. But red is by far my favorite. Glad to have the secondary review unit that just came in. It is red. Over here you got a 1.7 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 600 CPU. You got 32 gigabytes of storage on both of these devices, 2 gigabytes of RAM over here, 1 gigabyte of RAM over here, 4 megapixel camera, 4 ultra pixel camera as HTC is calling it, 8 megapixel camera over here. Both shoot 1080p HD video recording, and both are 4G LTE capable. Now, this is the Sprint version, I should point out. So it is LTE capable, but you're going to see Sprint, or actually as it says right now, Print, because there's a minor issue right now where it's not showing Sprint. This is a pre-production unit in terms of software, so keep that in mind. Little kinks in the road like that. Nothing too major. Before we get too far, though, special thanks to our partners. I always like to give special thanks to Best Buy because they give us devices like these that we just turn around and give to you for free at PhoneDog.com. So basically, you're getting the chance to win free phones as part of our partnership with Best Buy Mobile. When you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you're going to walk out working. Whether you get the Lumia 920 or the HTC One, you'll walk out working. They'll get your email, your web, your contacts, all your stuff set up. So when you walk out the door, you don't have to waste your time setting anything up, thanks to Best Buy Mobile. So overall, really impressive performance here on both of these units, and they're very different depending on what you want. Android 4.1 Jelly Bean with HTC Sense version 5. It's the newest version of HTC Sense user interface, very popular amongst a lot of nerds and consumers alike, and it's packing the usual Sprint applications. But you can see just looking at this versus, let's say, even the Evo 4G or the Evo 3D or more recent devices like the One or the One X, very different, or 1X or 1X Plus, I should say, pardon my language. All the ones, I get kind of confused. But very different even from the 1X Plus with Sense 4 Plus, which was the last most recent version behind Sense 5 of the Sense user interface. First of all, you'll notice when you open up your applications drawer, you got your clock right here. So you can always tell what time it is. You can always tell if it's sunny or if it's raining. That's super nice. Thanks for that, HTC. And then down here, Dallas weather, using my city as an example, and then the applications are right here. Now, they don't scroll side to side like traditional Android. They do have the Google integration, though, and then, of course, the Sprint stuff as well. Sprint TV and Movies, Sprint Worldwide. You've got SoundHound, and outside of that, that's about it in terms of the Sprint pre-installed applications, with the exception of Visual Voicemail, which is free. There's a premium version as well. Then you have the Lumia 920 over here on AT&T, and you get a plethora of AT&T applications out of the box. Code scanner, family map, navigator, radio, Uverse Live TV, ESPN, some stuff that I've installed, Foursquare. Of course, you get Xbox Live integration here, music via Xbox, or excuse me, music via Microsoft Music, and then of course games via Xbox, and of course YP Mobile and Weather Channel, which I installed myself. So a huge Microsoft presence here, be it Office, Xbox, Outlook. You're going to see the presence of Microsoft thanks to this being Windows Phone 8. So you got that. And let's take a look here at messaging on both of these devices. Here we go, messaging loaded up, and you can see 4.7-inch display, 4.5-inch display over here. Very different look and feel. You see the Metro UI look and feel of Windows Phone 8 over here, where the text is kind of spilling off the screen and the fonts are big and pretty. Over here you get more of, with their Roboto font, more of a tech looking feel on this device. And of course there is no menu button. And while we're doing that, let's go ahead and talk about hardware a little bit. The One is a beautifully crafted device all around. Metal and glass, looks really great. Micro SIM card slot over here on the left side. Micro USB charging port off center down here at the bottom right. Over here, volume rocker, 3.5mm headphone jack, power button which doubles up as an IR blaster for HTC's TV service, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the video or in part 2. Up here, excuse me, micro SIM card slot, 3.5mm headphone jack, micro USB charging port at the bottom, and then camera, power button, and volume rocker all over on this side, and easy to access. And then of course there is your lock screen. So we'll take a look at messaging here. 4.5 versus a 4.7-inch display. HTC's keyboard pre-installed, and this is the Windows Phone 8 keyboard. There's no Nokia-centric keyboard or HTC-centric keyboard. It is Windows Phone 8 right here. So we'll type the quick run Fox is happy. And so for example, I misspelled 2 words. You can see instead of happily, I can click it, autocorrect to happy, and I can move these words around as I see fit, which is one of the real great features of the Windows Phone 8 keyboard. Absolutely love that feature. If you're moving around and you realize 2 paragraphs up you typed something incorrectly, you can easily go back and fix it. The only thing I don't like about this keyboard is a couple of things, and I cover this in every single Windows Phone 8 video. Take a look at all the dead space that's over here as a result of the signal strength indicator bar, and that goes away. You can't leave it on the screen, which is something to keep in mind as well. You can't leave it up there. It does go away. You can't, there's no option to bring it up and leave it up. So it does leave a lot of dead space here, and so when you really look at it, at 4.5 inches, the portrait keyboard is almost as large as the landscape keyboard. Over here, by far, in HTC Sense, it's gotten progressively better with their keyboards over the months and over the years. Sense 4 was a solid improvement. 4 Plus was a great improvement. This is by far the best Sense keyboard I've ever used. And I actually was not a fan of the 4 keyboard. I was a fan of the 4 Plus keyboard. Huge fan of the Sense 5 keyboard. One of my favorite Android keyboards on the market. Happy that it is Friday. Thanks for the date. Let me know how it goes. And of course, portrait to landscape. And you can see it takes up all of the screen, maximizing that 4.7-inch screen real estate, which is really a nice feature. Also, another thing I forgot to mention, because you know me, I forget to mention things. Front-facing camera up here. HTC's worked to develop it to make it a wider front-facing camera, and you can really see it when you compare those, which we'll do in part 2. 4G LTE connectivity on Sprint, although arguably their network and connectivity is not nearly as expanded out as other LTE markets like AT&T's and Verizon's, but then you have LTE over here as well. We'll go ahead and load up the browser and take a look here. Internet Explorer, and that's loading up. PhoneDog.com. We'll load up HTC's as well, and you can see some of the differences here. Instagram.com, we'll go ahead and load up PhoneDog. PhoneDog.com, bam. On Sprint's 4G connectivity, which actually is pretty poor around my office for whatever reason. At home, I get anywhere between 10 and 20 megabits per second. Up here, I don't get a whole lot. I get like 1 to 2 megabits per second max. So here we go, loading up right here. And you can see the tabs up top for the HTC device, and then tabs over here for the Nokia device. And that's kind of how they look in comparison purposes. So new tab, new tab. And we'll go over here and switch back to PhoneDog. And you can do the same thing pretty quickly and pretty easily over on the Lumia 920, which is a nice touch. Pinch to zoom, responsive on both of these devices. Windows Phone 8 has always been exceptionally responsive, and that continues. Over here, this Snapdragon 600 CPU that's clocked at 1.7 gigahertz works incredibly well. Very pleased with the performance. Portrait to landscape, take a look at how fast this device is. And I'll tell you from my reviews and my other dogfights I've done and carrying this phone for 30 days as part of my 30-day challenge, I've been incredibly impressed with the speed of the HTC One. I mean, I have applications loaded on it, I've got my stuff loaded on it, pictures and more, and I've been exceptionally pleased on the GSM variant with how well it's performed despite having a bunch of just junk installed on the device. Let's quickly talk about personalization. That's where we'll leave off in part 1 and we'll pick it up in part 2. But you do get the typical HTC personalizations over here. And we'll go down to the Microsoft's Windows Phone 8 personalizations as well so you can see the differences between these two devices. So it's pared back a little bit, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because if you want to focus on it, take a look at the HTC One review or the Nokia Lumia 920 review, but do want to touch on some of the things that make these devices great for consumers. One of the big ones for me on the HTC One, this transfer content option is surprisingly easy to use. You click on it and you can choose between an HTC phone, choose between another Android phone like Samsung or an iPhone perhaps, or another device like a BlackBerry or a Windows phone, and easily transfer your data. I tested this with my Samsung Galaxy Note 2, transferred all my data without plugging either of these devices into my computer. Absolutely love that feature. And that is available on the HTC One. So you got that out of the box. HTC has been big about working hard to fix that transfer option and really increase sales from an opportunistic standpoint, really increase sales all around because people transfer your stuff easier. They're going to retain the consumer base. So here we go, display gestures and buttons, and then down here we'll talk about the lock screen and take a look. And this is one of my favorite things about the lock screen. So granted, Windows Phone 8 on the customization scale has never been that high, but you see a couple of different things over here. One of the big ones, new theme colors. You can change from dark to light like you used to be able to, but you can change the theme colors, and crimson happens to be one of my favorites. And so just new theme colors and looks and you got steel, for example, plum, and a couple of different ones you didn't have in Windows Phone 7 and Windows Phone 7.5. Also on the lock screen, this is a nifty little feature. Take a look at this and you can see messaging, Outlook, and phone, and you're thinking, what is this talking about? Well, you can come up here, for example, and change your background between a photo and a Bing photo that automatically changes on a regular basis. But then, of course, you have this, which is really a nice feature. So we'll go down to messaging, and I'll add in a couple of things here. Outlook, messaging, let's just move them around. Games, phone, and that's all we've got. We don't have anything else for the additional space. But you're going to have your shortcuts down there at the bottom of the device, but I have messaging selected, for example. So if I receive a text message, and I can actually send it so you can see what I'm talking about. Hi. I'll turn this off, and you'll see the preview of the message pop up at the bottom. That's because there's not a whole lot of space in the lock screen, but what little space there is, it will maximize and populate down there at the bottom. As you can see, hi, instead of just saying in addition to this, whereas if I had a calendar appointment, for example, it would just show one calendar appointment. It takes advantage of that space below the date and maximizes it by putting a preview of your text message. Over here, you've got some personalization options, Beats audio enabled as well, and we'll scroll up here to display gestures and buttons and show you, actually I take that back, go to personalize, and we'll come up here and take a look at ringtones, notification sounds, and then of course you can customize your home screen by adding apps and widgets, your wallpapers, but you've got your lock screen styles as well, productivity, photo album, music, and then of course no lock screen. So productivity happens to be one of my favorites, and I can set this where, mail, messages, calls, calendar. I don't really need calendar events to show up. I just want calls and text, so I can hit OK, and then it says I have to select 3 or more, so I'm going to go back. Shut down by HTC. And then turn it off and back on. You can see as I get calls, messages, etc., it'll populate up on the device. Stay tuned for part 2. We'll continue to talk about personalization between Android and Windows Phone 8, and of course personalization specifically speaking between the One and the Lumia 920. Stay tuned for part 2.